Dobry wieczór.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. To begin with, I would like to complain. I am in a very difficult situation, in a very extraordinary situation. I am a panelist who is to perform single-handed. I haven't received any moderators, facilitators, so if there is one, you can always hold on to his question. If not, you have to keep talking. So I will try to do it as well as possible. I hope I will be talking reasonably well, but the duration of my speech is rather long, so I hope I will not murder you. Please allow me to sit down. I will try to imitate the previous panels. All the panelists were sitting, most of the audience are sitting, so I will also sit. I thought I was going to take part in a panel with a moderator, and then I discovered that I was to be single-handed. It's a great honor, but it's also an obligation. So I had this cunning plan, which was similar in the Roman movies, the brave ones against the Roman legion. So there was this scene when a messenger comes to a tribe leader and he says, "Commander, the Roman legions are coming. What plan do we have?" And the commander says, "Just kill them all." So my plan was, since our panel is going to cover a speech, I'm not going to murder all of you. I just thought there will be a foreplay for the meeting, since it's going to be composed of my speech and your questions. Maybe I will speak for 5 minutes and then I will give the floor to you to ask questions, because otherwise it would not be fair. Okay, 4 minutes have passed. So I will proceed with the concrete of my speech. I made some notes. I thought that maybe you will see me all. I've got the title of this presentation, Contemporary Eating Habits as a Mirror of the Nation's Soul. So when the Freedom Games called me to ask me what I would like to talk about, this is the topic I suggested. And once it was written down and I realized that I would have to speak about this, I was thinking, what have I done? This is the material for PhD thesis. Let's consider the meaning, the contemporary eating habits as a mirror of the nation's soul. Anthropology, history, the history of cooking too, sociology, ethnography, all these disciplines of knowledge. If we were to address this topic of my short speech, I would have to refer to all these disciplines. So please forgive me if I do not describe the nation's soul in detail, do not describe it through the eating habits, but I will do my best. So when I was thinking of this topic, I didn't write the specific, I didn't specify the specific concrete nation, so maybe I can tell you what was happening in Cambodia or anywhere else. But we'll proceed with Poland. But before I do this, I would like to make sure that if you want to understand the whole context, why we're here and why in our typical foods, what we choose, what we like to eat, so why it's not only here and now, it's also the past, it's our history. Very often we are not aware of the history. So I would like to use an example which recently has been very trendy in Poland. We are talking a lot about it. Germany. First, I would like to talk about Germany. Germans are now the hot topic for many reasons I am not going to dwell. They are also a characteristic example. It just shows how some historical events can influence our foods and beverages. So, when we consider German cooking, we imagine men wearing characteristic jackets, women wear corset and skirts, frilly skirts, Dint und Trachel. So they eat pig's knuckle, they drink from 1 liter beer max. And this is a cliche. This is a Bavarian cliche. There is nothing like German cuisine or national cuisine cooking. In Germany, after World War II, the generation which after that war grew up, that generation was very much ashamed of what their fathers had done and grandfathers. So en masse rejected the food that were in traditional German cuisine. It's not that Germans stopped eating specific regional dishes, specific characteristic for the specific regions. German food and wine stopped being trendy. People who in the 1960s were in their 30s eating sausages during holidays, or they had pig's knuckles and sauerkraut. It was associated with something we imagine when Waffen and SS division soldiers meet. So we associate it with something dreadful. So what happened at the time? As a result of the economic miracle, Germans started going for holidays abroad. Mass import started. Germans were one of the first who imported foreign foods. So foreigners catering facilities developed in 1960s. Of course, Gastarbeiters from Turkey, Italy, and Spain were moving into Germany. That is why there were so many Italian restaurants, wine sectors. Germans are very good producers of wines. Mosel's Rhine wines are one of the best wines, but they lost the value. Roman Wielowczański, who is a well-known producer, Niewodniczański, a producer of wine, he was the son of Professor Niewodniczański, and his mom was German. She was the owner of a brewery in Wittburg. It's one of the biggest private breweries in Germany. So they were wealthy. They are wealthy people. So he started with wine production. So first, everybody was looking at him as if he was crazy when he was saying that he really values his wines a lot. So he was showing to me a menu dating back to the 1920s, menu of the restaurant of Berlin, where the German wines produced using the champagne method were valued higher than champagne. Pinot Noir and Rhine and Mosel German wines were as expensive as the top products from Burgundy or Bordeaux. So when I was meeting with him, and it was in the late 1990s, then it was it wasn't. It was out of date because Germans preferred wines from France or Spain, and they didn't value German products. So the new generation had to come. They didn't have to be ashamed anymore for their fathers. Maybe they had to be ashamed for the grandfathers or great grandfathers, so that the change could occur. We often forget that it was in Germany for the first time that when actually the first mass singing of the German anthem. I'm not talking about these previous nostalgic meetings of the former Wehrmacht soldiers of Waffen SS. So the Germans sang publicly the anthem in 2006 in the football stadium during the football championship. Then everybody in the stadium was singing the anthem composed by the Haydn, and they were waving German flags. So it was it was a strange sensation when people heard this singing. But it doesn't apply to the generation that is before us. So the German approach changed to German cooking, German wine. Roman Niewodniczański sells his wines at very high prices, and they are very popular. And now they are on the restaurants' menus. 20 years ago, in German restaurants, there were wines from all over the world, but German wine was missing. So it illustrates, in a nutshell, it shows eating habits that reflect, in a way, the soul of the nation. The soul of that nation in 1960s, 70s, and 80s contributed to the situation that when they had when there was special moment and occasions, they didn't want to have German food nor drink German wines. It has just recently changed. What's the mirror of our soul when we look at it through the eating habits? The soul has a lot of little corners, and a mirror can show the image differently, because in one fragment, if a glass, the glass can magnify or it can reduce the image, it can distort the image. It's like a stained glass window. It consists of different elements. So Polish cuisine is composed, Polish mirror is composed of several fragments. And when we are looking at it in the context of food, we can show these different aspects. First of all, we've got people who think that Polish cuisine is the best in the world, that there is nothing better than Polish cuisine. That being a part of this common body of Europe and the influences caused by this opening are a hazard to us, because they are a hazard to our national identity, which is revealed also through cuisine. We hold it straight. Good because it's Polish. Every nation has such a stupid marketing statement by British, by the Czech, as if eggs laid by hands in the Czechia were different than those laid by hands in Slovakia. I know it matters, the conditions in which
the hen lives, whether it's a hen from a cage or free range eggs. Hens don't have nationality, and just like autumn, but we call it golden Polish autumn. If we stand at the border and put another leg to Slovakia, is it Slovakian golden autumn? That's nonsense. That's stupid approach to cuisine and autumn. But it is equally stupid to say that it's good because it comes from the particular country. It is not good because it's Polish, Spanish, or English. It's good because it's good, and that's it. And that's the only reason why it can be considered good. These people think that it's good because it's Polish. The most interesting thing is how the group of those devoted to tradition, or whatever we call them, defines Polish cuisine. They define Polish cuisine and they include such things as pierogi, pork chop, broth. Simply speaking, there is no single dish which is Polish of origin, because pierogi originate from China. Those with different kind of filling were called Russian, the ones with potato and cheese stuff, but it was the former name for Ukraine, and before modern Ukraine was created, they were called Ruthenians, which had nothing in common with Russians because we called them people from Moscow, and that's or Moskals, which is a term still used. Nabałakaj po moskalsku mowu. If you don't want somebody to speak Russian. So pierogi, pork chop. As you know, this is the dish which was created during the Byzantium times, but it was originally prepared as veal from Milan. When you go to Milan, you have cotoletta or costoletta alla milanese, and this is nothing else but chop in breadcrumbs or in butter. The dishes which do not originate from Poland, but it doesn't really matter where they originate from. Another thing is important. They originate from the communist Poland. We had pierogis earlier, but their popularity flourished during communist Poland, and hence a very important conclusion. Those who are called traditionals for the sake of this speech laugh at those who don't eat meat, vegetarians, vegans, and we'll move on to this part of our soul in a moment. They claim that eating meat is an element of patriotism and national pride. There are such opinions voiced directly. Yeah, you can eat your leftist green stories, green veggies, and we, real Poles, we do eat meat. Where does this devotion to meat come from? And it has been elevated to the notion of something absolute. I shouldn't be the one talking about it. We would need the entire group of scientists to talk about it, but we reach the essence of who we are today. In 90-something%, we originate from the countryside. We, Polish women and Polish men. And as people of rural origin, we had occasional contact with meat. Between the First and the Second World War, peasants used to eat hen meat when the peasant was ill or when the hen was ill. The campaign of Slavoj Słatkowski originated in the 1930s to build Slavojkas, which were outdoor toilets to make people urinate and defecate not in the field but in these little huts. That was the Prussian partition area, where peasants were the richest. However, it was the image of despair and poverty. In the east of Poland, it was a disaster, poverty. These people, shortly speaking, moved to communist Poland, some were relocated from the east. No matter how we perceive communism, it definitely changed their social status. It changed in such a sense that communist Poland was industrializing. And the workers' class flourished. Metalworks, steelworks, big factories needed some hands to work. Some of these people had these outdoor toilets, but their contact with meat was rare. Once they got flats in cities, in towns, near factories, and in the factories there were canteens serving meat 4 times a week, something they had not experienced before. Their ancestors had not experienced that. Their social status has changed significantly, and we have to remember that serfdom was abolished, was removed quite late. Now we look at these districts full of blocks of flats, and we remember the times of shortages. In 1956, the rebellion against rising prices in Poznań. 1970s, increasing prices of meat. 76, vouchers for sugar. 1980, again, economic issues. Then there were some political postulates. But it was always a protest against food shortages or high prices of food, including meat in particular. What was the communist authority most afraid of? Increasing prices of meat and food. Food vouchers evoked social rebellions. Only a group of people, intelligentsia, rebelled in the 1968. Hence the meat as a kind of social promotion and the embodiment of a higher social status. We need to remember it, but we also need to make everybody aware how dangerous it is to educate the nation of peasants according to nobleman's ethos. What do we learn? Romanticism. Whenever we talk about food, it is sacred in the Radzivill's court. when a Pole becomes richer, will they do the same as Norwegian or Slovaks or Slovenians do? Will a Pole, just like these people, build a cottage coated with moss on the roof? Does a Pole wear folk costume? Do they listen to folk music? No, we do have disco polo, which replaced folk music. And folk music is played only in pseudo folk form by Mazowsze or Śląsk groups, which has nothing in common with folk music. A guy wearing a costume from Krakow walks around the market square to get money from tourists. In Norway, in Slovenia, people wear national costumes for family gatherings, for weddings. There are local parades of people wearing these outfits. The peasant society in majority is subject to education by noble people, game, roast pigs, and this should be the symbol of our cuisine. People are ashamed of the poverty they experienced in the past because we are immersed in this nobleman gravy. And now we are moving on to another part of this mirror of our souls. There are people who understand it very well. And fortunately, these people also think that since we live in this part of the world, we should eat what this land offers. Contrary to the ones I mentioned previously, they do not think Poland is uniform for its cuisine. Those ones say Poland is uniform, all Poles are one big family, and it would be best if nobody stood out and everybody had broth or tomato soup made of tomato passata from a jar. The second group respects local traditions and they understand one thing, that Poland is a large country consisting of different regions, that in Poland people speak different languages. The majority of us speak Polish, but we've got Kashubian language, which uses a different alphabet. We've got Silesian language. I know that some professors claim it's a local slang, but what is the definition of a nation? Should professors say what a nation is? 100 professors and fatherland, you are lost. Who can become a professor nowadays? That's the quality of tertiary education in Poland. The only proper definition of a nation is when a group of people considers them a nation, nobody can challenge it. If somebody thinks they speak Silesian not as a local slang but as a language, we cannot deny it. We also have Polish citizens who consider themselves of Belarusian Ukraine. We've got Ukrainians, and I don't mean those who came to us recently. Remember the Vistula action? We've got Lemks, we've got Boykas, Jews. We have got Orthodox churches all over the place, but we inherited the Respublika of many religions. The Republic of Poland was multi-ethnic, multi-religious, and multinational country. Even if Poland became nearly mono-ethnical at a certain point in time, the nearly makes a huge difference. Hence, the people who understand our tradition and identity in a modern way acknowledge its force and power in the regions. If you are from Łódź, you might not know that something you eat, for example, dumplings with strawberries served with cabbage stew, is something completely unknown in other parts of Poland. I had to come here 30 years ago to see it. I didn't believe. I tasted it. And believe me, I don't come here to eat bigos, the sauerkraut dish. I come to eat the dumplings with strawberries. I come here to listen to some local words which can be understood in the rest of Poland, but with a completely different meaning. No one in Krakow will know that the word krańcówka means tram depot, or Angielka and Weka are the names for white bread or a kind of baguette. The world is complicated, fortunately. Only a fierce nationalist would like to equalize everything so that everybody is the same and the entire country is uniform. We respect local cuisine from the regional point of view. It is perceived from the regional perspective because this is where the real power is hidden. Cuisine is among the key magnets for tourists. There are many people globally who travel from one place to another and they don't bother about what they eat, but 20-30% travel to eat. Culinary tourism is the primary thing. It's supreme. We go to Mazuria to eat different species of fish, such as whitefish. We go to Podhale, so I don't know why we go there, but we used to go there to eat false flax mushroom. And they understood it in the times of young Poland, when wealthy people from all over Poland came to serve potatoes with cheese. I once asked the owner of such a restaurant from the highlands in Zakopane. It was illegally built, as the majority of buildings in Zakopane. There are places where law operates in a different way, and this is this place. I asked him, learning that his son would be getting married. I asked what they would serve, because they served trout, smoked trout, sheep's milk cheese, or pierogi stuffed with such cheese, saffron milk cup, potatoes with cheese. So I thought they would disclose this Highlanders cuisine that we don't know, that they don't serve to tourists. And he told me what they would serve. broth with pasta and pork chop with pineapple because they don't like what they serve to tourists. They disregard their cuisine. Why? Because they associate it with poverty. And for them, a pork chop with pineapple, it's a bit a thing of the past. But what is trendy now? Swiss chop, but you have to stuff it with cheese, ham, and mushrooms, and it's in butter, and that's a rich thing. Those who respect tradition know that this is not the way to follow. Hence, there are things in the menu that people were ashamed of. What is the peasant's cuisine? What is la cucina povera called in Italian? For instance, nettle soup. This is the dandelion salad, different kinds of porridges. There is also a type of cake with buckwheat groats, lots of such things. But now we rediscover them and we offer them to the public. People were ashamed of them. The mist of the nobleman culture would tell them to eat pork chop with pineapples and not dandelion salad or porridge with butter. In this part of our society, and this is a very common trend, I see a big hope, just like in another fragment or another group whom you can identify, namely those who either limit or quit eating meat. Those who don't eat meat at all are driven by two arguments. I don't because it means killing an animal, or I don't eat because it's good for the planet. Industrial farming means carbon footprint. You cut down rainforest, you plant soybean, not to make tofu, but to have animal feed. It's like a vicious circle, and we know that industrial farming of beef means much severe carbon footprint than all exhaust pipes of vehicles all over the world. And for me, it's refreshing that more and more people think this way.
And something I would like to add personally. I eat meat, but more and more seldom, but I have meat sometimes. But I am a human being who is not only interested where this meat is from, but how does it taste finally. So I do respect vegetarians for their choices, but I also value them because their choice also means pleasure for them. First, they wanted to make it good for the planet, to the population, but people are happy as a result of eating. This is our daily act, which we can sense with all the senses. It makes our life better, not just biologically, but also sensually. 20 years ago, veganism or vegetarianism was only to show our beliefs. Now it's also a great pleasure because vegetarian and vegan restaurants very often are just great. And this food is so classy. Before, it was just enough to say to a vegan, well, this is vegan food, and he felt obliged to eat such food. And today I hear, well, we are not going there. The vegan sushi in that restaurant is really horrible. But if we go there for vegan burgers, you will really love them. I can understand it even better. This is what it's all about. It's not about living like a monk. It's about making our life pleasant. So it's a double pleasure. It's a good thing for our planet, and we also make ourselves happy. Does it mean that I only have 13 seconds left? No. What does it mean? 3, 2, 1, and then there will be a power cut? Oh, okay, please come to the end. This is what I have read. Okay, so I'm just about to close the speech. So there are the three main the three main trends in our soul, in our souls of the mirror. The last two ones I love. The first one, well, I don't like it too much. It's not me. I'm talking only about food, more or less. But if we translate it to any other areas of our life, so talking briefly, which of these trends of eating will win? Well, the one which wins will have the impact on our nation, on our fatherland. Our fate depends on the preferences of the eaters. So depending which of the groups will be strong enough to follow the specific directions, this will be our directions, the direction of Poland. Okay, I'm just about to close, but I wanted to invite the audience to share some information. Yeah, you probably will say that initially I was speaking too much about Germans, but I love talking about Germans because we do not know Germany at all. So there are some cliches. All the time we watch war movies. So Germany is used as an alibi. If we know Germany, we know it as a place where we can earn money. We don't visit Germany as tourists, or very seldom we go there. And it's a fascinating and very diverse country. So, ladies and gentlemen, I do encourage you visit Germany. I have seen many cities where next to the name of the city, oh, I would like to add something about Germans. I was talking about Western Germany, and Western Germany in the past, the Eastern Germany. Do you know the key dishes? There's Ungarische Gulasch and Russische Soljanka is the other dish. So these two dishes were adapted from the communist past. People from the Eastern Germany could go to the Balatons, so they were driving the Trabants and they were driving to Hungary, and they introduced goulash. Of course, it doesn't have a lot in common with the Hungarian goulash, but this is where many Soviet troops were stationed, so that is why they also have the Russian solyanka. Nobody forced them to cook solyanka, so you can see how past can influence the culinary soul of the nation. Solyanka is a very tasty book, but in the Eastern Germany version it's much worse. So questions, that's all from me. Thank you.
Jeszcze nie rozstajemy się. Dobrze. Panie Robercie, chciałabym zapytać...
Robert, I wanted to ask you about one thing. Let's say you are receiving a friend from Dalmatia in Poland. What would you serve your friend for lunch? I would serve the dishes he cannot taste in Dalmatia. For example, there are no forests there, so I would serve fruit of the forests. We still have forest in Poland, so I would serve mushrooms, potato pancakes. They don't know potato pancakes with mushroom sauce. They don't know borscht, the white borscht. I'm not sure whether I would serve borscht because people do not want to eat borscht if they don't know what it is. So I would offer fruit of the forest, and of course I would be wearing a partisan gorilla costume.
Dzień dobry, panie Robercie.
Good evening, Robert. I wanted to ask you, it's probably a separate lecture, but in Europe we have an unfinished number of meals, dishes, if we were to count the dishes served from all over the world. But we can count drinks, beer, wine, vodka, and different varieties of these beverages. Do the beverages influence the culture of people who consume them, or it's rather the culture that has made them drink what they drink? So how does drinking contribute to the way we are? Europe is divided based on several criteria. There is also a zone of vodka, beer and wine. And it influences art, the way people express. Pietruszka's Moscow would not develop due to beer. And when we are thinking of Soldier's Schweik and his adventures, they are a result of mixed consumption. Czech is, the Republic of Czech, which is composed of three parts: Czech, Moravia, and Silesia. So the Republic of Czech is located in the beer zone, but it's also located in the wine zone, mainly Moravia. Hašek drank everything, and this is a case of an alcoholic. In the Czech, you drink both beer and wine, although we mainly associate Czech with beer. It's not an expression of Pietruszka's Moscow. The song, Mediterranean songs, is the culture of wine. So if we go through the art, you can see it clearly. Germany is a good example because they are located in two zones too. We associate Germany with beer. Why do I talk about Germany all the time? Somebody leads me to this theme. So a great part of Germany is the land of delicious wine. The vine has been cultivated since Roman times. So of course it impacts style, living style. Just like there is the zone of lard, olive and butter. Which one I like best? It depends which drink I feel like it. Fortunately, I'm still lucky enough and I can move around the zones. What was the most weird dish? What do you mean weird food, strange food? Sometimes we think that what we eat is something which is true and something else is weird. So, if we take a look at it objectively, to most people, it's strange, it's weird to eat bread because the most nations do not have breads. Indians, Chinese do not have bread. Indians have some cakes, and well, I'm always surprised with the chicken soup with potatoes. Okay, I will try to ask a question. I will refer to the previous question and to the meeting with Mariusz Szczygieł, and I would like to refer to my favorite Czech cuisine. How do you explain that Czech cuisine and Moravian wines are not that well known in Poland? They are not very popular. Pierogi have come to Poland through Ukraine. I don't know how pork chop has come to us. The same with probably Wiener Schnitzel. Knedlik are not so popular in Poland. In Kraków you can buy Moravian wines, but you cannot buy them in Łódź. And they are excellent wines. I think it's too early in the sense that in the Polish People's Republic times we were living like in a cage. It was hard to go abroad. It was easier to go to communist countries such as Bulgaria or Slovakia. It wasn't so easy to go to France or Thailand. So when you are kept in a cage, and what can you see when you are in the cage? And if they let you out of the cage for short time, so if you leave it, you want to go to places you couldn't see from the cage. That is why we started traveling as far as we could, and we didn't notice valuable things that were quite close to us. Now it is changing because everybody has visited Vietnam or Thailand, and now they go to Moravia. I didn't have time to tell you about another group which shapes our culinary awareness. I'm talking about fans of foreign foods. There were always people who very often, without any reflection, they admired foreign foods. I like sushi very much and sashimi, but the fact that in Poland you can buy sushi in a department store, it's wrapped in a foil and it's treated as fast food. I think it's really quite unique when we look at the other nations. Sushi is not really, shouldn't be really served like this. Having sushi is very fashionable now. It's just trendy. But knedle, these dumplings, this is the word known in southern Poland. It is used. It's due to the fact that when modern cuisine was developing, and it was the turn of the 19th and 20th century, we lived in a country that was under 3 partitions. So it was natural. In Kraków we know what buchtas are, but people from other regions don't know what it means. So there is so much to discover, and the Czech is so close.
Czy uważa pan, że przez najbliższe 5
Do you think that within a 5 years' time, I'm on the right, I'm waving, sitting on the ground? Do you think that within the 5 years period, Poles will reduce or resign from eating meat, considering the Polish cuisine? Well, I can give a positive answer to the second part of your question. I will definitely say no. They won't give up eating meat, but it's been happening. It's not only about inflation rate and the fact that a kilogram of chicken doesn't cost less than carrot. It's no longer like that. A living creature, which you have to keep. It needs to be born, then it needs to be fed, killed, processed, and it costs the same as something that grows in the ground and is removed. It was absurdly cheap. But people don't resign from meat because of that, because of prices, but we are young people are more and more aware of it. The important factor I'm talking about for many people, the bland meat dominant was a symbol of social promotion, prestige, and wealth. But young people do not perceive it this way. So many generations have passed since, even if they come from the countryside, when their ancestors suffered poverty and treated eating meat as luxurious. It doesn't make sense at all. But understanding what happens to the environment matters. Cutting down on eating meat, definitely so. Resigning, rather not, unless somebody introduces anti-meat dictatorship. But there are no harbingers of such a situation, to the best of my knowledge. I would like to ask the following question. I liked your statement. You talked about it perfectly. There were lots of comparisons and synesthesias and comparison. I would like to ask the following question. Following the trends among young people, or what elderly people order in restaurants, do you think that the current eating habits reflect our soul? And if so, how would you read it? Do we follow the right direction? Do you see a positive change or a negative one? How does it reflect our soul? If you understand we as the young part of our society, I think we are following the right direction. If you consider we as us all, we are not following the right direction. The point is that the people who follow the right direction should be the benchmark. This is the first generation who does not take an egoistic approach. They take problems holistically in such a sense that, for instance, Bolsonaro cuts down rainforests. 20 years ago in Poland, my peers would say, I don't care. They were busy pursuing their careers in large corporations. We have seen a change in the mindset. Now we think collectively, and I'm very happy to see it because I'm not a youngster any longer, but I share your mindset. I think that community is a great word present on many levels. Community means local government. This is the only reform which succeeded fully in our country. And since centralization, which you don't remember, but I do, and that's why I am so nervous about what is happening now. In the past, there was a person in Warsaw deciding about everything. Now, Lots of competences have been handed over to communities of counties, communes, communities, and the state. And finally, the community stands for people all over the world. And we should consider it this way. It seems that your generation shares this mindset in the majority of cases, but not everybody. Sociological research reveals it. Right, I would like to point out that participating in such a conference and seeing young people, I want to say that it's not only about us young people, but many showed that no matter at what age you are, you can have interesting opinions. So I would like to ask, have you been infected with the will to discover? I'm infected with the gene of youth. There is no remedy, no cure for it. Biology is important as it makes some processes inevitable, but biological age does not mean that people who are older have to be grumpy old men. It's rooted in your head. And you don't have to run. You don't have to jog. I hate sports. Let me reveal it openly. Sport is more. And we should end on such a happy note. Thank you very much.
Przepraszamy jeszcze na chwilę.
We're sorry. Just to pursue the tradition, the Freedom Games are over, but they wouldn't be possible for the work of our team of Liberté volunteers. So since you are here, I would like to invite everybody to come to the stage to thank them for lots of hours of hard work. I would like to ask our volunteers to come to the stage for a family photo. Don't be ashamed. There are many of us. To organize such a meeting, over 400 panelists, discussions, we would like to ask Agnieszka Durmai's team to join me.
Ja jestem naprawdę dumny, że co roku
I'm really proud that Freedom Games bring together so many young people who want to spend their time and do something. It's fantastic, and we'll repeat it in September next year.
i do zobaczenia za rok.
See you next year.
Nie miejmy
It's not always easy to recognize. It may look like this, or like this. It may be a burden. And how it feels, how it tastes, and what it sounds like when we finally have it. It means different things to different people, but for many, it means everything. And if we all fight for it, it will eventually bring us together.
Ihre Ausreise.
Atlas Network is, as the name suggests, a network, and it's global. We work all around the world. We're based in the U.S. We have about 159 partners in the United States right now, and the bulk of our partners are outside, nearly 500 in total.
Atlas Network, it connects people from all over the world, defending the idea of human dignity, defending human rights and personal liberties.
Atlas Network is focusing on, I think, the most important and moral cause in the entire world.
We partner with local innovators, local leaders who understand conditions on the ground in communities facing real challenges. We look at the people from the worldwide freedom movement that are passionate, are ready to make a difference, understand local conditions, and we invest in them.
At Atlas Network, we unleash individual ingenuity to enrich humanity.
The United States does not have a lock on the idea of freedom and liberty. Those ideas are beyond borders.
One of the main goals of Atlas Network is to eradicate poverty around the world, and we do that by investing millions of dollars in our partners' work every year.
Historically, wealthy nations around the world have tried to help low-income countries develop. The way we've been doing it traditionally has not really been working. So there's a movement to do development differently, and that means we need to step back as outsiders and rethink the role that we're playing in helping people in low-income countries achieve their dreams.
We want to make the world a better place. We want to make the world a freer world.
All of us want to leave a legacy and be part of something big to make a better world. This is exactly the work of Atlas Network.
With our growing number of hundreds of successful partners, we're stronger than ever.
Changing the world.
Changing the world.
Changing the world
starts together
with us.